I have been trained, very strongly trained by my mentor to never believe a woman's story in her marriage. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have gotten sucked into a woman's story because we are so convincing. We are so manipulative. We know how to dramatize and exaggerate the circumstances and experiences in the marriage to suck someone in, to feel sorry for us, to validate us in our victim story, and have even really no awareness to question that story from a woman and try to understand, well, what would the husband say, or what's his experience, so what's his side of the story. And we bring that into therapy. So like I said, I can't tell you how many times over 10 years that I got sucked into a woman's story, and my mentor had to help me break through my cognitive dissonance and get back to the fundamental truth that I know. I've gotten so much better. It's very rare that that happens now, but it can still happen because we are so convincing. It's just like, it would almost be blasphemy to not believe some of the things a woman says. And oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You have to, that's terrible. Maybe he's not a good man. We are so convincing. And I've also had the pleasure over the years where I've worked with a woman. She has a strong story of her husband and how he can be aggressive or controlling and a narcissist. And she paints this story. And then I've had the pleasure to actually meet her husband, because she's tried to, we always want our husbands to change. So it's interesting. Women will convince their husbands to take my men's course, which is interesting because of what I teach men in that course, which is about all our woman ways and how men have to take their power back. But I've met these husbands, and I meet them, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she has this story of this man, because they're the typical good man, just loves their wife, is caring, is confused about how they're always wrong and can't be right. And when I meet the husband, it doesn't add up at all with the woman's story of him. So therapists are not trained to break through the stories of a woman. And because they're already biased, they already have that gender bias to believe and take on the perceptions of the woman and have that prejudice towards men, they get sucked in. And here's the thing, is that the very same tactics we use as women in a marriage to manipulate our husbands and brainwash them to believe they are the problem are the same manipulative tactics that we use to draw a therapist into our story and get the therapist on our side. We're using the same tactics, and then the therapist gets brainwashed into believing the man is the problem. I've had several female clients over the years who very quickly trusted me because I didn't buy into their stories, and I called them out on it. I have one client in particular, I will never forget my first conversation with her. She reached out to me. She had this big story about her husband. He never pays me any attention. He doesn't validate me. He doesn't even compliment me ever. He never even says I love you. And she had this whole story, but she was also sharing, but I know I have these behaviors and this is how I show up. And this is a very high-powered woman with a very successful business. And she gets done telling her story. And I knew I had to be totally direct with her to gain her trust, to gain her respect. And I told her point blank, the problem is your husband is terrified of you because you are such, pardon my language, because you are such a bitch. And I didn't mean it mean, and I didn't mean it judgmentally. I was just telling it to her straight, and also knowing the own experience of myself as a woman and the women that I had worked with. And her jaw dropped open, and I didn't know what was going to come out next. But she just looked at me and she said, "Thank you. You're 100% correct." She said, "I've never, ever had a therapist ever be direct with me and has always let me manipulate them. You're the first person who's called me out. So we have to be called out, women, and we have to see what's